went to Pride Parade, wore a
Yes.
t-shirt because they wanted us to wear a t-shirt, got a weird tan. So I had to correct,
Yeah.
They got a foam.
Yeah.
And ma'am, like everybody, of course, feels hotter with a tan.
Yeah.
I've never seen myself with one before. So I was like, like try to keep me in clothes. Just
That's what I'm
try.
saying. That's what I'm saying. You've always been, I'm not gonna wear shorts. I'm not gonna wear the no.
Listen,
Out.
you can't even get me to put my ass away.
That's
Not even
wonderful.
for work.
Welcome and congrats.
It's lovely. Everybody should be foam tanning. Not real tan.
100%. 100%.
Get a little
Put a
foam.
picture up of which one you got.
I just
and
got
10 out of 10.
a Target kind, probably not the right kind. Just a Jergens.
Oh, a Hergens.
A Hergens. Because she was available.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take a recommendation. Comment below.
Your favorite self-tan. Muse. Did you have the little glove?
I got a little glove
and
a little brooch. Oh my God. There was a mother at the parade and she had these two very small children, and she was sunscreening them as we all have done and need to always be doing. And she is a genius who will change the world. Maybe this is a hack everyone knows about, but like she had a little makeup brush and was putting on her children's sunscreen with a makeup brush.
That's smart.
Revolution.
I've never heard that. I've never seen that.
I was like, ma'am, you're so smart. She's like, thanks. But it was the best thing I've ever seen.
That's good.
Shout out to that lady.
Oh my God.
So now that's what I'm doing to my children.
I like that.
Like so glowy, when you apply anything with a brush, it's better.
Yeah. And doesn't Hen love it?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Mr. Queen.
Yeah.
He loves
extra
it.
luxurious.
Hello.
And I have like a sinus infection and I've got a whole lot of crap going on. So I'm like, I don't want to go to work. I had to go to work today and I was like, I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But I luckily got some antibiotics. So yeah, so I'm a little out of it. So just FYI.
But this is sinus infection. You look gorgeous. I don't know what's up.
Rude.
I never spoke to you, so hey.
I know in real life. Hi. I love you already.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let me properly introduce you. So our dear friend Jen is here. Jen is, first of all, like one of my nearest and dearest, but also phenomenal mom, phenomenal activist.
Phenomenal.
Yes. And also like grew up where we grew up, but like in a couple towns over, and understands like all the same bullshit that we understand. But yay, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So like firstly, we did all grow up in the same county in a very small community. So like I don't know if you want to share like maybe your experience growing up in this weird place that we all grew up in, and like what was that like for you?
Sure. So where did the two of you grow up? I mean, I know Grace Harbor, but where?
Yeah, we were Ocean Shores.
In the Oceanshire.
Oh, you're okay. You're way out there. Okay. So I grew up in Hoquiam, Aberdeen area. I'm assuming that people who are watching this have somewhat of an idea of the geographic of where I'm coming from, because you probably have talked about it.
Yeah, at least the lore.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I was born and raised here. My mom was not born here, but was moved here when she was really young. And so she was pretty much raised here. My dad was born in Hoquiam, and back in whenever they had a hospital there, I guess.
Oh,
But he's like born and raised from here. He's passed now, but so I'm like a Harborite, I guess.
yeah.
Since my dad literally was born here, I guess I can claim that I'm a Harborite. I went to Hoquiam schools. I went to Hoquiam High School up until my 10th grade year, and then I transferred to Aberdeen. I was getting bullied pretty bad, and I needed to make a change. I was also dealing with undiagnosed mental health stuff. This would have been early 90s. So we just didn't talk about that stuff. And so a lot of went undiagnosed. I had a lot of childhood trauma that happened. And so that often also was really swept under the rug. Like I said, I was getting bullied, and like kids would bring me dog food to school and tell me like how ugly I am, and they'd bark at me in the hallways.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So I got really suicidal, and I switched schools. I was working at McDonald's in Hoquiam, and a gal that I worked with went to Aberdeen, and I had gotten kind of close to her. And so I was like, hey, Mom, I want to move. And so I switched schools. Things were really, really good. I had like a good group of kids who were like me. I was very much a tomboy. I was really small when I was younger. I graduated high school like 97 pounds, and I'm 5'7".
Wow.
And so I wasn't developed at all.
Yeah.
I was like a 2x4 basically. And I got made fun of a lot for that. And so I got misgendered a lot too. A lot of people thought I was a guy. And so I struggled with some stuff in that, in my femininity, in people thinking that I was a guy. And then I struggled with my own sexualities too, but I didn't realize that that's what it was until I was in high school. At a young age, looking back on it now, like I did struggle at a young age with things, because the narrative was, in 1981 is when AIDS came out. I was 6 years old. So if you were gay, you were going to get this disease and you were going to die.
Yeah.
So I had crushes on other girls, and like, oh, they were so pretty, and like, oh, I got the chills. Anyway, and so some pretty intense feelings, but my narrative at that point in my life was, if you were gay, you were going to get this disease and die, like, period. Like, it just that I didn't really know how it was I was 6, I didn't know how it was transmitted, but I knew that like, you're gay, you're going to die. That's just how it works. And, the AIDS epidemic went on for a long time, and we were still really uneducated about all that stuff, into my, growing up. Like, I was a skateboarder, and I did some surfing, and I played drums in band, and skateboarding was my main outlet. I played a lot of sports too, but I hung out with all the guys. And so the narrative was, you're supposed to date guys. Well, they were all like my best friends, but I dated them. Like, we dated, but it was like we just hung out and skateboarded and like watched TV together. I had a couple serious relationships in high school. And my senior year of high school, my friend actually that I had met at McDonald's, her and I were walking in downtown, well, not downtown Aberdeen, but we were in Aberdeen. And we were holding hands, and there were 4 of us getting ready to go play soccer at a local park. I was holding hands with my friend, and we were talking about, we were singing I'm a Loser by Beck.
Oh actually. My God. Yes.
Yeah. So we were singing I'm a Loser. Guy comes around the corner. He's in a car or in a truck. He yells out the window, hey, baby, get yourself a better boyfriend. Us being teens and 12th graders, we flip the guy off, we don't think much more of it. We're like, whatever, ignorant jerks. So we go on our merry way. Well, what happened is the individual came back around the corner, and I was walking across the street to go on the other side to the park, and they had ran ahead of me, and we're on the other side of the street. Well, one of my friends turned around and was like, Jen, look out. and I turned around, and when I turned, he hit me from behind, and it caused basically my whole side of my body to break and give in. So my clavicle split in two, it messed up my elbow and my wrist, and then he started kicking my ribs in and like beating my head. He like got on me at one point, and then like they got him off of me, and then he just continued to kind of kick me in my ribs, and they were like, "That's a girl, that's a girl." And finally he was like, "Oh, it is a effing girl, you know." And then he just like, they ran off and got in the truck and they left. And I, at that moment in my life, like when I was laying on the stretcher, I just closeted as far back as possible. Like I was like, chills again. I was like, nobody's gonna know that I'm gay. Like I was really, I knew that I was teetering on the, like, I think I'm bisexual, but I knew that I wasn't bisexual, but it was somewhat okay in 94 to say you were bisexual.
Right. Yeah.
It's a compromise. Yeah.
As being a woman, it was a little more acceptable, you know, because of like the porn industry and things like that. It was more acceptable for me to be bisexual than to be 100% queer. I identify as queer and her, she pronouns. I do identify by her, she pronouns because I like chocolate. So that's why I say that. Everybody says she, her, and I say her, she, because I do really like chocolate. So yeah, I was out of school for like about a month and a half. I had to have a couple surgeries on my shoulder. They had to put a plate and a pin in, and then they had to go back in and redo it again. And I just had a lot of healing to do. I was really scared. I didn't want to leave the house. Like I wouldn't let my mom leave for like 2 weeks. Like I wouldn't even let her open up the curtains. It was really traumatic. And you know, all sense of safety and security that I had in life just like out the door. And I didn't have a lot of safety and security from having a really messed up childhood. So it was like it was pretty messed up. So you know, and so back then we didn't know about like painkillers and things like that. So what do they give people? They give you pain meds. You know, I'm struggling with all these broken body parts and like things that are hurting, and so they're like, here, teenager, take all this Vicodin and you can refill this as many times as you want to. And I was a pretty straight edge kid. Like my mom worked at a substance use disorder. It was called the care unit back then. But she worked there, and I had an aunt who was very involved in drugs, so I was like super anti-drug. And then this happened, and then I started mixing pills, and I started drinking alcohol, and then I smoked weed for the first time shortly thereafter that, and then I started smoking cigarettes, and I just kind of circled the drain for a while, and I got really into I got deep into the Vicodin, and then I got to where I got okay, and I got graduated from high school. I had to like cut my classes to 3, had to give up band. I didn't get to letter in band. I was pretty upset about that. And then 10 days after graduation, I got hit by a drunk driver. He was doing 75 and a 50 down in Portland. So what else did they give me? They gave me more meds. Here's some more opioids, you know, do some more drugs. And so I was kind of off and running at that point. And you know, my life was just a gross mess. I was homeless. I was living in a car. I was living at the back of people's houses. One night, I was living in a house that had no running water, and I woke up to a gun in my face with the police. And they were there serving a warrant on the house because the people that like owned the house but had never been there, like there were warrants out for their arrest, and somebody saw them like climbing in one of the windows one night, and we didn't even know they were there. So the cops came, they busted the house. There was like a bunch of weed and stuff, and some people got busted, and I was like, oh my God, I could have gone to jail. And I called my mom that night, and I was like, I'm done, come pick me up. And I walked away from that life, started dating this guy, and we were together for a little while. and then we broke up, and I dated another guy for a little while, and we were together, broke up, and then I got back together with my ex, and I got drunk one night, and I got pregnant.
Oh
So
my God.
guess what?
Wow.
This, like, not really sure my sexual identity stuff. I'm pregnant now. And
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? Coming from such a broken family, my thoughts at that point, my ideology was, I have to get married. And
Right.
we have to get married, and we have to raise this little human being together somehow. I ended up getting married, and had my son saved my life. He really did. I mean, I was like still drinking and partying and stuff, but when I got pregnant with him, life just became so much different. And my life became, it's about raising this human being and really wanting to provide a house that I didn't have. And my ex-husband John and I, we really tried hard to do that in the beginning. So I had my first son, Leif, in 2000. And then I got pregnant again, which I don't really know how. I mean, I know how, but I had like one ovary at this point because I had to have an ovary removed when I was pregnant with Leif. So like one ovary, condoms, pill, never really
man.
never
Meant
really
to
did
be.
like, oh, boom, I'm pregnant again with my second kid. So I have my second child. I stayed at home during the week, but worked on like weekends at nights to supplement John's income. But for the most part, I was really lucky. I got to be like a stay-at-home mom for quite a while. And then I one day decided that I didn't want to do that anymore and decided to go back to school. And so I, in 2006, started classes at Grace Harbor College, 2-year college here. And in 2010, I graduated from Evergreen and Olympia with my bachelor's in psychology and leadership management. But in that time, I came out. So my ex-husband and I, we had been having a lot of problems. I had been wanting to get a divorce. It was a reason I went back to school, was because I needed to be self-sufficient. And how was I going to do that and him not take them away from me?
Right.
So I got really involved in, they were starting a gay straight alliance at the college. Here's how I became an advocate and how I came out. We'll get to the part of here. So they were starting this club at the college, and there was, and I'm not trying to put down all people that fall under this ideology or anything, but there was a group of Christians who were really against it. One of them sat on student council. And so they were getting paid state monies, because you get paid to be on the student council. So getting paid state monies, and they were trying to stop this club from happening. And I was like, that's illegal.
Yeah.
And so I like went to the first meeting, and at one point I had found Christ in my life, and like I was wearing I had like a necklace that had a cross on it when I went to this meeting. I wasn't out yet. Anyway, so they thought that I was there. These people, when I showed up for this meeting, and I had like pen and a paper in my hand, I had like my little necklace on. They thought that I was a reporter for some Christian magazine, which, yeah, right? Super funny. So, they're having these conversations, and they're like, oh, we get a right to do this. Well, I'm gonna blah 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 because of this. And I'm like, and I'm like, can I talk? And like I inserted myself, and I was like, hey, you can't do this, state money, blah blah blah, you have to abstain. And the people that were doing the gay straight alliance, their jaws were like, what? Like, she's here for us? What? And so they voted the club in, because I mean, she had to abstain. She tried to get a lawyer. Like, it was ridiculous.
Oh
Yeah,
my
no, I'm not kidding. Like, it was a thing. It was in the paper at one. It was in the Daily World.
wow.
So yeah, and we were like, no, you literally have to abstain because you're getting paid state money. Like, you can't openly discriminate, because you said why you're not going to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Openly discriminated at this point.
Right.
And
Hold on yourself, bestie.
so I get involved and I start going to the club meetings and I'm meeting some new people and I'm like, oh, there's gay people in Grace Harbor. Look at this.
Yeah.
And I I get some friendships. Then I go to a leadership conference down in Portland, and like my family's like, "Why are you going to this gay conference?" And I'm like, "Well, because I'm an ally." And then I come out and I'm like, "Well, I'm really bi," and uh, it happens with a lot of queer people. You kind of come out in this like I'm bisexual, and then some people they are truly bisexual,
Yeah.
and then there's some of us that are like that's the soft, like here's the soft landing, but
Yeah.
no, here's the push. I'm really
Yeah,
this.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're when you're coming out, like it's really hard. So for me, and I know other people that have gone through it, like it's easy to say, and I don't at all I don't want in any way, shape, or form to take away anybody's experience in being bisexual. I know that for myself and for some others that I've come in contact with, it was easier for people to be like, oh, there's still hope that
Yeah.
they're not, they're not this way. They are going to be with a guy or they are going to be with a girl. There's still this hope there. And so it's kind of like a soften the blow. I know it sounds horrible. I hope that I'm getting across, like
No, it makes
not being
sense.
a total jerk. Okay.
Yeah.
And um I
If we
was
still introduce them to the right guy,
yeah, yeah,
then it
Still
can still
get
look
married and have the
traditional enough.
kids and
Yeah.
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 And so since I was married, it just made sense to say that I was bisexual.
Right.
Well, so I got to a point where I asked for a divorce and we split and started that painful journey together and separate. Um, and then I met someone and I was like, oh my gosh, like I started to fall in love with this person and she was a woman. And I was like, I'm really gay. Like, I am gay. Like, this isn't just a phase. Like, and just everything kind of clicked into place. And then I had to come out and, if I wanted to be with this individual. So I I came out to one of my stepsisters first, uh, in like a messenger. I don't even remember what we were talking about. And then I was like, hey, I'm gay. And she was like, yeah. And
right.
everybody knew but me kind of
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
oh, duh. Most people were like, yeah, we know. And other people were like, what? And but you were with a guy. And um, but for the majority of people when I came out, it was like, yeah, we know. And my dad didn't care at all. My mom, her first reaction was, oh, there's always been something off about you. Like, I don't really know what I expected from her, but that's what I got.
Yeah. That's tough to
Uh,
hear.
yeah, I was like, oh, thanks. Uh, I came out and it was really traumatic. It was incredibly hard on my ex-husband to hear that I was gay. So what he had built in we were married for 10 years, together for 12. You know, to him, I was living a lie. That was hurtful for him to hear, and he lashed out in a lot of ways on that. And I, um, in my own like dealing with everything, it was very selfish of me. Like, why can't you just accept this? And why are you being such a jerk? But it's now been uh, 13 years since I've come out, and I can look back on some things and be like, it had to have been incredibly hard to be like, wow, 12 years, you just lied to me. And also, our society looks at, if you leave one gender for another gender, you know, it's for men, it's emasculating, I guess is that term. I don't
Mm.
really know
Yeah,
I don't know what the term is for it when men leave women. I
I
don't, is there a
know.
term for it? It's, what is that term? Because we
Oh,
look at men
Do
and
we
we say
even
it's an
talk
emasculate,
about it?
right?
yeah.
We
Huh.
should have it. Well, I guess not. It's because we're just like, go get it, bestie, right?
Yeah.
Go get
Um,
yours.
so yeah, you know, and so that was really tough. It was hard on my kids to understand, you know, I didn't have a lot of gay people in my life because the gay
Yeah,
community is not real big here anyway, but they had really never met anyone who was gay. And so then all of a sudden, like, I'm introducing them to this girl and like we're hanging out more. And then eventually we move in and like, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just only used to my mom kissing my dad.
yeah,
She's kissing another girl. You can do that? Like,
right.
Right.
mind blown
Yeah.
for me too.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was, you know, it was hard. It was hard on our families. It's it sucks that it has to be so hard. It's hard on a lot of families, and it really is a shitty thing. Because we should just be like, well, love who you love, you know.
yeah,
But this idea of having to come out and be like, hey, I'm not what society says I'm supposed to be, I guess, and please love and accept me still. And I lost some people who I was really close to, and I lost some family who were just like, oh, you're like a disgusting freak. Like, no. And that was really shocking to me. Some of the people
yeah,
that like just walked out of my life, I was like, wait, really? I figured you would have been supportive. And so there was a lot of stuff that went into that. And then on top of that, the girl that I had fallen in love with was like uber abusive, and it like
Oh no.
it's so bad. It was so bad. And it started out okay, and then it kind of went down the drain, and then it kind of went back up, and it was so horribly abusive for we were together for a little over 5.5 years, and I would
God.
say about 5 years and 2 months of it was abuse.
Whoa.
It was really bad. It was, but it was my first love. I was so in love with her, you know, like this
right.
was literally the first time I'd been in love. Like,
And liberating, it felt
yeah,
like, I'm sure.
like I had loved boys before, but I had never loved a love like this. Like, this is
Yeah,
what true love is, you know?
Yeah.
Chills again. So, you know, I really, and just also got really, there was a lot of gaslighting and a lot of like, if you ever leave me, my ex was going to take my kids from me.
ugh,
You know, I was really unstable. You're just mentally messed up, like just all kinds of stuff. It was really gross. And uh, it took for me to almost commit suicide. I ended up hospitalized. I took a bunch of drugs, and I don't know how I got myself to a hospital, but I did. And I spent some time, and I spent 9 days in an institution, and best thing that ever happened to me, other than having my two children. Because it forced me to like deal with a lot of trauma that I had not dealt with, and that I just kept saying, well, I deserve this because I'm a bad person. And, you know, my parents were who they were because I was a bad kid. And, you know, I deserved all this crap because I was just a bad person. I deserved to get beat up because I was gay and that wasn't okay. I deserved all this stuff. And, um, you know, being able to step back from that and getting out of all the toxic stuff, and really starting to work on myself um, was really hard, but it was really good. It needed to happen. And so in all of that craziness, I started a nonprofit in the craziness of my ex-wife. This thing called Out and Proud Grace Harbor Coalition. And so it was born out of, there was a kid getting bullied at Hoquiam about some stuff, being trans. I kind of had found my voice at the college, and so like I went to bat for this kid. They asked me to come to school. I went in, I sat with the principal and the parents and a bunch of stuff, and it was not the first time I had done some of that kind of stuff because I was the advisor for the Gay Straight Alliance at the college for like 12 years. Yeah. uh, and so I'd gotten really involved in being an advocate and an activist and stuff.
Well, so what did that look like? Like you're going basically into meetings with like administration and educating, or like what is it
So what happened?
translating?
Yeah. So all of the high schools had been moving away from kind of gendered graduation gowns, because a lot of times girls will wear one color and boys will wear the
Oh.
other color. And so at Holcomb High School, boys wore one color, girls wore the other. And so there was crimson and gray. And so they were getting rid of that and moving across the state board. Schools were moving away from that. And as we grow, we evolve, we realize there's more than two genders out there. And so to be more inclusive, a lot of these schools had done that. Well, Hoquiam happened to be that year they were doing it, but kids in the school were claiming it was because of the it kid. It was causing all this problems, and it was the reason we were getting everything taken away. And so I came to the school with their legal guardian, and we had some conversation about some stuff. There were some screenshots we had taken that were bullying. Police kind of got involved in some stuff, and kids were saying a bunch of horrible things, and we grabbed screenshots of all of that stuff. And so the Holcomb administration basically took it and ran with it, and they were like, hey, will you come and do some training? And so I had already been doing safe space training at the college. And so I took the safe space training from the college and stuff that I had adapted to for the school and pared it down. And I taught 5 classes in one day at the Holcomb High School. There were juniors and seniors. So there were 1-hour trainings about safe spaces and words, and what do the words mean, even, like, what is it gay and what is transgender, and gave some history behind some stuff, and their minds were blown. They were, wait, what? And then I did a 2.5-hour safe space training for the teachers and the staff that day in the afternoon. And so they definitely, they wanted to get out in front of it, which was really cool.
Good.
But it sparked so we started having some community focus meetings on, like, what does the community need? And so we had some meetings, and then in this time, a local restaurant came out saying that they were going to have basically like a focus on the family Sundays kind of thing, like biblical one man, one woman, whatever, on Sundays at this restaurant. And I was like, wait, what? And so we challenged some of that, and then I started a protest.
Got a little rowdy.
Had a little rally, and that became what we called our first Grace Harbor Pride, because we had a rally. We had a bunch of people, well, not a bunch of people, but we had like 50 people that showed up throughout the day that like sat and like waved signs, and like we handed out cookies to people, and we gave stickers out and a bunch of stuff. And so we called it our first Pride events. But then we realized, no, we need to do a Pride. And so we were like, hey, let's try this. And so we created a nonprofit, and we decided to throw Pride. And our very first Pride drew over 2,000 people to the harbor.
Wow.
Yeah,
which is huge for our little community. Okay.
Yeah.
What year was that? The first?
Well, so this is our 10-year this year. So it was 2013.
Whoa.
So
Oh
we have our
my God.
10-year pride this year.
Oh my
10
God.
years, 10 years
Yeah.
going strong. Yeah, and we were this little tiny, we still have always been this little tiny committee of people. Like it's been a board of like 10 and less. And it's always been this way. It's always been a few people putting on this huge production
Yeah.
every year. We've tried to make Out and Proud different things, and it never kind of worked. And we kind of just went to like, we're gonna focus on pride. That needs to be our focus until we can maybe ever make it a bigger organization. We need grant writers and a bunch of different things. We visioned having a building and a space, like, and having some kind of uh drop-in center or safe space for people. We tried to materialize it a few times and it just didn't happen, and everybody already has their own jobs and things like that, and nobody's had time to like put in to start one. So we've got our 10-year pride this year. We're bringing Mary Lambert in. I don't know if you know who that is. She did a song with Macklemore. It was called Same Love. um and then she went on to, she was already a songwriter and a poet. um, and she does a lot of body positivity, which is really cool. So we're bringing her from back east to perform at our Pride this year, which we're super excited
Wow.
about. And she is so excited about it. I got to speak to her on the phone and I fangirled and cried, and it was
Aw.
it was really it was
Uh,
cute and ridiculous at the same time. It's been a crazy journey, and
yeah.
in all of that, I got really, really fortunate that I found my soulmate. And
You did.
I did. So in the wreckage that was my last marriage, in the healing process, and they say it, and I swear it's true, it's when you are absolutely not looking for it, does it come and smack you upside the head. And I do drag. I haven't for dragged in a few years because of the pandemic, but I was doing drag at the time, and I was performing at an Aberdeen High School drag show. It was their first drag show ever. And I was performing, and there was this really cute girl there, and I kept looking at her, and like I didn't know how to talk to her. And then some people I knew were like, "Hey, we want to come introduce you to some people." And it happened to be the table that she was at. And it's like I briefly got to like hear her name, but I met the other people, that's who I was really meeting. And then later on, I was like, "Hey, can I get a selfie with you?" And like snapped a selfie with her. And then
Ooh,
before she left, she was like, "Well, you got one with me. Can I get one with you?" And I
ooh,
was like, "Sure." And so she took a selfie with me. And then she was like, "A bunch of us are gonna go out like later if you want to go." I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, like we're going to this place. It's called the Easter Ale House. We're going to the Easter Ale House. Like you guys can totally come over and meet us there if you want." And she's like, "Oh, well, I'll talk to my friends." And so go to the ale house, there with my friends. She shows up. She shows up with all her friends. And it's 7 years later, and she hasn't left my side. So
Aw.
yeah.
come on.
So we kissed that first night.
Yeah, you did. Come on.
And then we met again the next night at a bonfire, and we kissed some more. And then
I'm
later, that was
telling
more the night.
you.
Like I never got rid of her after that night. Like
Aw.
not that I didn't get rid of her, just we have a really super strong bond.
Yeah.
She's an amazing human. And sorry, they go by they them. It's a tricky thing. She they. Um, they are an amazing human being. So I've been really fortunate, and I was actually part of their story, which was kind of cool because I brought a speaker from the Matthew Shepard Foundation to do a big thing about erasing the hate in Grace Harbor. And they went to one of them, and after they had been at one of the speaking thing, he did like 5 of them around here. After being at one, they came home and came out to their mom. And
Ah,
so I know it chills.
wow.
um yeah, so I had a little bit of a part of their coming out story. So it's kind of cool that
You really are like one of the most supportive human beings, and that's why like you are such a big part of our story of coming out too. Because like what happened for us was that like, well, okay, we have all this history. We all grew up in sort of the same area. You and I have like a ton of people, places, things in common, but like,
some we'd like to forget.
yes, some would not like to ever encounter again. But I think, we met at the right time. You, your family's impact on my family, you know what I mean? And like your, I don't know, I feel like we really have like a strong mom connection.
Oh yeah.
I think, parent very similarly. And like, so my kids have just always known since they were tiny that like you just love whoever you love, you are whoever you are, and that's like such a huge privilege. Um and so I am so dumb that like I've just been like, well,
Ma'am.
I just feel like everyone is, loving whoever they love. And so I'm always talking to Joe about like, well, everyone's bisexual. And he's like, no, ma'am, they're not. Like, I am not.
No, they're not.
And I'm like, oh, maybe just me, actually, like in this household. And so um when my sister over here was like talking to me about like, well, what if like, I don't know how, if you want to tell your side of the story, but like we started talking about our gurneys on the spectrum of sexual orientation. I was like, Bestie, I'm pretty sure I've been bisexual for a real long time, like ever since Jamie Lee Curtis gave Arnold Schwarzenegger a lap dance.
Not Jamie Lee.
And so I don't know if we need to like announce it or anything, but let's call my friend Jen and find out.
And I think I'm pretty blunt when people tell me like I think I'm bisexual. Like, so I'm pretty blunt when I'm like, oh, so you can see yourself kissing another girl. Like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, can you see yourself like having sex with another girl? Well, yeah. I'm like, can you see yourself going down on another girl? Like, no. Oh, honey, then you're not bisexual. You might be curious and think people are pretty,
Yeah.
but you are not bisexual.
Yeah.
If that act
That's
makes
the
you
test.
go,
Yeah.
you go at that act, then you're not bisexual.
What are you thinking about when you're masturbating? That's my cue. Going back
And
to
then there's that. But
Yeah.
so it's also interesting because I have a lot of straight friends who will watch gay porn, but like aren't like I had this conversation recently with somebody I was really close with who we had this conversation. They were like, I think that I'm bi. And I was like, would you do this? Yes. Would you do this? Yes.
They would
Would you
like
do
someone
this?
to go down on them.
And they were like,
Who wouldn't?
no. And I was like, okay, then that's kind of a big thing. Like,
Everybody
not,
likes boobies, but not everybody.
not everybody likes that particular act either that are
That's true.
that are female. Not
That's
everybody
true.
does. But if you're not willing to be intimate in a lot of different ways with a woman, then you're probably not bisexual. You probably are very attracted to women and think they're very pretty,
Yeah,
but
of course.
I think that there are some just beautiful men. Oh, Bradley Cooper. Oh my God. Don't even get me started
Not
about
my
Bradley
type.
Cooper.
Not my type.
I used to see, and I just think he's beautiful. I'm like, oh, he just kills me. Him and Ethan Hawke.
Okay.
They're two very different people, but Ethan Hawke is my other, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But do I want to sleep with them? No.
Right.
Can I look at them and say, wow, they are pretty looking men? Yeah.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I don't, and I also don't fantasize about them either. So,
yeah.
but I do know people who, like, we've talked about, yeah, they watch porn and they're like, but I would never have sex with a guy, or I would never have sex with a girl.
Right.
And they're like, oh, it's kind of interesting. Like,
Yeah.
huh. So
I
maybe
wonder,
curious. I don't know.
and then like, do you even know until you like meet a person who gives you sparkly feelings and then you make out with them, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah.
I
You
keep
know,
telling Joe to kiss some guys, and he's like, no, thank you. But I'm like, would you know if you,
He's on his own journey. Leave him alone.
I think that you need to leave Joe alone.
okay,
Joe's
that's good advice.
probably pretty straight.
Okay, I guess.
Uh,
Kind of a
and
bummer for me, huh?
um yeah, but you never, I mean, and sexuality and gender can be on a spectrum,
Yeah.
some people, it is about meeting the right person, and you're like, dude, I'm in love with you, and I'm gonna do you, everything turns me on about you,
That's my
and so
problem. I fall in love with everybody.
there's nothing wrong with that. So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You wore a particular flag
Yes.
at Pride. Did
Yes.
you do that for a reason?
Yes. Because Reagan, my oldest, has educated me that I'm pan because I fall in love with everybody.
Because
Hey,
you want it all.
I want everybody. I do not discriminate.
I was looking at that flag and I thought, is she making a statement with that? And I need to ask her. And I kept meaning to like text you it, but now we're here
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh,
No,
hey, by the way,
no,
uh,
I'm open to everybody. Come on over.
so so in being that, so you would be open to a trans man
Yes.
or a trans female. Okay.
Yes.
Then you are pansexual, my dear.
Yeah. Come on over.
Congrats.
Just kidding. We have to ask Joe first. Of course. Okay.
Please ask
There's
Joe.
still rules.
So, and that's for me, I identify as queer and gender nonconforming to the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was with someone who was on the trans spectrum,
Yeah.
and in that, like, they weren't sure, and so they were kind of playing around with, am I, and if I am, are you still a lesbian? And for
Right.
me it was like, well, I guess if you're you're a guy, no, I'm not a lesbian, because I really cared about this person. And I was like, it wasn't something like I was going to be like, I don't want to be with you anymore. Like, that
Right.
wasn't like that. We're done.
Yeah.
And so I had to ask myself, like, so queer at that point then just felt more like what I am,
Yeah.
because I tend not to conform all the time to some of the gender norms, and or um, the sexual orientation and some of that stuff. And so it just, like, I love everybody, but I am not pan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not bisexual. I'm attracted to women's genitalia. Let's
Yeah.
go with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Come on. And like that's the thing is it's like we have to be so decisive about, you know, I don't know where we stand, but it's like, I don't know, you know,
Right.
it's about who you fall in love with, who you want to, and maybe not who you fall in love with, maybe just whoever you want to get it on with. You know what I mean? And you do you, you know?
Yeah.
It's like people are like, oh, there's too many words. There's so many words, but really, like, even the words we have are not big enough words, We got to keep finding the bigger words for all this stuff. Well, I just want to say, like, before we get too far in the weeds, that I just love, I've never heard your whole story all like that. And so I appreciate you telling us your story. It's so big and amazing. And I think it's a beautiful story about, like, the spectrum and all this. Like, you don't have to be locked in or know everything. It's all in stages, it unfolds, and it's perfect and it happens how it's supposed to. And I think especially like raising kids and showing kids like adults, we don't know what we're doing. It's unfolding, like we're in progress, we're figuring
Yeah.
it, you know, like I just think that's very cool. I feel people feel a lot of pressure to be, I'm this, and that's projecting strength to my kids and I'm being consistent and whatever the fuck, you know. It's more beautiful and gives kids more room to breathe, to see their parents developing,
Yeah.
you know, as people, to become more true themselves, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I just love when people are like, I thought I was this and I was, and now I know more that I'm this and I am. You know what I mean? I just
Right.
love that.
So my youngest boy, he always like he too never kind of fit into some gender norms for a really long time. And uh it was so much me. He just the beat of his own drum. Like he's got his own rhythm going on in his world. And he came out as trans in high school. And when he came out, his dad did not receive it well, and he moved in full time with me and my wife, Jade. And we did all the things. We got therapy. We immediately bought a binder. Like we went on that day, like let's go buy a binder.
Yeah.
And we had a binder, and like we got rid of all the skirts and brought in all the shorts, and like out with all the stuff. Do you need boxer briefs? Like what do you want? Like we went shopping, and we were like, let's do this swap. And uh he got really lucky that he got me as a parent. I don't want to sound,
Yeah.
but he did. He got really lucky that he got
Yeah.
me as a parent, because literally it was like, let's get you a binder. Like, okay, and that you like boxer briefs? You want to try around whitey tighties? What do we want to do? No, you like boxer. Okay, let's get you some boxer briefs. He was very into wearing skirts. He doesn't like texture. He doesn't like jeans and things like that. We just went and bought a bunch of athletic shorts, and like, he already had lived in hoodies, so that was fine. We just swapped colors. We swapped some colors at the time. Um, and he tried out different names, and got to a point where he landed on the right one. And he was also really vocal himself at school about people treating him with respect and using proper pronouns, and other people respecting not only his pronouns but other people's pronouns. Like, he was a huge advocate, and he was probably the most open out transgender kid to go through Hokewound.
Yeah.
And we changed his name to make sure, because he did running start, so he got his diploma and his 2-year degree the same week. And so we changed everything to make sure that we got his name changed and all that stuff done, so that both his diplomas would have correct names. All the awards that he got, which was really cool, because the school contacted me and they were like, are we spelling his name right? And the principal called me and wanted to make sure, because he had gotten uh, an award through the Lions Club, and they were like, we want to make sure we're spelling his name correctly. And I was like, yep, that's how you spell it. And they were like, okay, we thought so, but we just wanted to make sure. And I was like, that was really cool. And his band teacher really struggled a lot with pronouns and the name. And like, it started with us really saying, no, he was, he needed to wear the guy's stuff for choir, not the girl dresses. And well, you're not that. Well, no, you're going to do this because as a parent, I'm telling you, this is what we're going to do. And really getting some struggle on that. And then in the end, like, her, giving him a couple awards at the end of the school year, and really highlighting how he had changed her life in such a great big way. It was just good. And just, her own growth, and she had to stretch and grow in all of that, and come to terms with, what are my own ideals on this? And wow, I'm learning some new things here. And so it was really cool. And so, so not only does he have queer parents, but we have a transgender kid. So
And like you're like the recipe for like when you support a kid, and like advocate for a kid who needs it, like they're a success story, like they can do all of the things.
I've seen a lot of kids through some stuff, especially being as the advisor of the GSA for as many years as I was. I was really blessed that I got to do that. And I got to go to some amazing conferences. I was part of when I worked, so I worked at the college for 14 years. When I was there, I was connected to a program that was a national program called Trio. And the guy who ran that was my direct boss. And I got to go to a couple of national conferences with them, and one of the ones that I went to, there was it was about working with LGBTQ students. I was like, oh, I'm so excited to go to this, and I went to it, and it sucked. And I was
Oh,
like,
no.
man, this was awful. And I'm just I'm outspoken to some points, and then I'm not. I get social anxiety. I have it, and I don't have it, and
Yeah.
PTSD and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so the gutsy person in me went up to them and was like, this could have been a whole lot better.
Yes.
And I was like, you didn't give anybody any takeaways or resources. You could have done this. Like, there's so much more. You had like an hour and a half with us to give us all this. We're at a national conference. Like,
Yeah.
you could have stepped it up a little. And so he was like, I'd like to hear more of your views on stuff.
What?
And I'm like, okay. So the next year, I'm now their national trainer, and I get to go for a year, and I do 4 national conferences and teach LGBTQ stuff at a national level too. I got to go to LA, I got to go to New Orleans, Atlantic City, and North Carolina. It was an amazing year. Unfortunately, they didn't get the grant the next year to do it. And so I didn't get to be a part of it again. I was like, can I just do this for the rest of my life? Because I would have loved to have just continued to do that. But my life would be very different. I would never have met my wife. And so, everything happens for a reason. But I got to change a lot of hearts and minds in those presentations. So teaching LGBTQ stuff in the Deep South is interesting.
Yeah.
It is not something that is safe.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of resistance, but I also had a lot of people come up afterwards and ask for more resources and say, I didn't know this history behind all this stuff, and I had no idea about these different things. And so it was really cool. It was cool to be able to touch lives like that.
Well, let me just say, like, I mean, I don't know if it's offensive that I call you a gay doula.
No,
You helped us come
no.
out,
No, that's
like,
kind of funny. I like
I
it.
don't remember, like, I mean, because my memory, trauma brain, whatever, I don't remember all these timelines and all these friend groups. So I don't remember knowing you before, but I remember she was like, you need to text my friend Jen. She'll get us out of this closet.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
She'll help us.
I felt really bad when I messaged you. I was like, I just like bleh, all over. I was like, that was a lot of information I just gave a stranger.
No, we
and I
need
hope
it.
We need it. I
We
swear
do
to
well
God.
with a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming.